Okay, my name's Bill Kaiser. I guess I started out coaching baseball in Little League. I coached the Bourbon travel team for 15 years. I also then after that coached some 13-15 baseball. And then the last 12 years I have been the assistant varsity coach on the softball team. So I guess combined I've got about, 30 years of coaching at some levels or, And finally this year we gave it up, decided we've had enough. I grew up in Bremen. I played football, basketball, and baseball. So I've been involved in sports all the time. And I guess the thing that got me involved after Marcia and I moved to Bourbon was we had a son and a daughter in the sports, and so I just kind of, I don't know if by accident or what, just ended up coaching. And always boys. And 12 years ago, Steve McBride called me up and said, I'd like for you to be my assistant coach. I said, girls? Yeah. I said, I gotta think about this. And so I told Marcia about it, and to be honest, she talked me into it. She said, yeah, go ahead and do it, you'll have fun. And she was right. I enjoyed the 12 years, and girls are different than boys, but I enjoyed the 12 years. It had been going on for a while, but to be honest with you, they'd never won a ball game, hardly. And I think Steve and I were fortunate in that we got some girls with some talent, and they were willing to work. And I guess we had some success. We won 5 sectionals, we won a regional, and it seemed like every time we won a sectional and got into a regional, we were facing some pitcher that was going to Texas A&M or somewhere. I mean, it was just always, but we had some success, and of course now that we're both out of it, I hope the program continues to succeed, but because when you put 12 years of your life into it, you'd like for it to go on and be successful. I gotta tell you, that's kind of strange because we played the championship game down in Caston, and we beat Caston, and we actually had to say to our girls, you can go celebrate. It was kind of strange. They weren't sure what to do. And it was kind of funny because we were mostly sophomores that year. And our pitcher was a junior. We had a couple of good juniors on there, but the game ended and we went out and shook hands, and it was kind of like, girls, you can celebrate now, you just won a sectional. That was a great year. We had a really solid ball team, again, mostly juniors. We had a pitcher by the name of Mallory Jennings, who was probably as good as any pitcher we've ever had. We pretty well breezed through our sectional. And then we had to go to South Central to play in the regional, and if anybody knows anything about South Central softball, they're always good. And they were ranked number 4 in the state of Indiana when we went down there. And I have to say that probably Mallory pitched the best game of the year. And we ended up winning 4-0. Mallory hit a two-run homer to give us, we were ahead 2-0. She hit a 2-run homer to make it a 4-0 lead. And then in the bottom of the 7th, we decided to make it interesting. We got 1 out, and then we got a pop up back to our pitcher, Mallory. She drops it. Next girl got a single, and we're thinking, oh my God. And we told the girls, we'll trade them runs for outs. We don't care if those 2 runs score. Well, we got a ground ball, and I won't say, we got a pass ball, the catcher, and they went to second and third. And then we get a fly ball to right field, which Alexi caught, and they sent the girl from third base home, and Alexi nailed her at the plate, and the game was over. Yeah, right. I mean, and we knew how to celebrate. The girls were thrilled to death because Triton had never won a regional win, and we were proud of them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we treated it any different than any other game. I think the girls knew the magnitude of the game, and so did we, but I think you just stick to your routine. If you break your routine, then I'm not sure that you're ready. And, we talked about that it being an important game, but we didn't have to tell them that. I mean, they already knew that. And we told them that we were what we were. We couldn't change who we were now. And of course, we had all kinds of things like, at that time, we had reporters coming in to interview people and stuff. So it's not the same, but our girls were focused. And I don't think we changed anything. I mean, we practiced we're just going to go play our game and have fun. And so that's the attitude we went to South Central with. And because if you try and change things, then you disrupt what has been your pattern all year. And just treat it like any other game, although everybody, and they too, knew it wasn't just like every other game. They were ready. Yeah, they were ready to go, and they played very well. And beat a really good South Central team. I mean, there's no question about that. Probably if we were to play them 10 times, they'd win 7 of them. But on that day, we were better than they were. They were brilliant when they got talent. And we began to get some girls. And I guess take some credit, we got some girls that probably would not done well in any other sport, but in softball they could play because they could, a girl maybe that was a little bit heavier, not real athletic, could play first base, she could hit. And I think Steve and I deserve some credit. We worked with them and improved them. And I think the other thing that we stress, and I don't know that other coaches do this, but we kept always told our girls we were a family. And when you spend as much time with them as you do, you kind of get to be, close. I mean, that just happens. And I don't know how other coaches feel about it, but I don't see any problem with that, And there were, anytime you've got numerous groups or girls or boys, there's going to be some conflict. But we always said we kept it internally. We didn't go out and tell mom, we didn't go out and tell dad, we didn't go out and tell grandma and grandpa. We were a family. We kept it internally. And we did that. The girls did that. So, and I think that's one thing that Steve and I did that was important. They felt like a family. And it's like any high school. They're in different groups of friends and stuff. But when they put on that softball uniform, all that went away. I mean, they treated each other with respect. It didn't matter that we weren't friends with this person or we didn't hang out with that person. It was like, okay, this is a different situation, and now we're all friends. I think because you're all trying to achieve the same goal, which is to win. Obviously, we didn't go out there to lose. And plus, I think it's a camaraderie that happens because they are playing sports and they're with each other a lot. I mean, you're together basically 6 days a week, and so you just build on that, you have conflicts. I mean, you can't put 13, 14 girls together without having some conflicts, but they become a family because that's what they want to do. Now, I think boys are a little less, what do I want to say? I think boys are a little less emotional than girls about being part of a group. We're kind of tough guys and we don't want to show any emotions. And girls wear their emotions on their sleeves. And if you're married, you know that. Sometimes we don't understand what our wives are thinking, but girls wear their emotion on their sleeves, and that's different than boys. I think it's easier to deal with. I do, because they tell you what they were feeling. They didn't have any, they didn't walk away mumbling about something. They didn't like something, they come tell you. It was easy to deal with, and of course with girls you get a lot more drama. Problems with boyfriends, problems with this, but you just work through it. I went and talked to Donna one day about something entirely different. I don't even remember what it was. And she got to ask me about softball. And she said to me, you and Steve don't realize what an influence you're having on those girls' lives. I walked out of there and never thought about it. And, you know, and I didn't change anything after that, but I'll take her word for it. I don't know, you know. You know, I have girls come up to me now that I haven't seen forever and come up and hug me and tell me about what their lives are like. You know, you can't keep track of all those girls. You know, I mean, it's impossible. I think I told you the story about Megan Dean. I was at a basketball game and she's looking for me, and I finally hooked up with her, and she came running up and gave me a big bear hug, and we got talking, and she said, you know, I'm married and got 2 kids. And I said, well, I knew you were married. I knew you were living in Indianapolis, but I didn't know you had 2 kids. And she said, yeah, I have 2 kids. And I looked at her and I said, Megan, I hope they turn out just like you. And she looked at me and she said, I was a pain in the butt, wasn't I? Yeah. And you know, all teenage years are rough for everybody, boys or girls. And you know, we went through all the problems with the boyfriends and all the other things that go on. But that's just part of being a coach. Yeah. Any coach you interviewed would have told you that they went through that. Yeah. I'm not sure I remember that.
Really?
No, I'm not sure. That's been a long time ago. God, I think it was a learning experience for me. I don't really remember all the gory details, but I think I kind of established in my own mind a philosophy, and that was to get the kids to work hard, but to let them have fun. Because if you don't have fun, then why are you out here? And I once told the girls something that I had a high school basketball coach one time in the locker room come in and say, this game's a lot of fun when you win. I'm not necessarily trying to say winning's everything, but it helps. And but I think that's a philosophy. You know, work hard, but have fun. Because if you're not having fun, then why are you out here? I mean, if it becomes a grind, becomes where you're not having fun, then don't do it. That's my philosophy, I think, because you got to have fun. Let's face it. And I think most coaches recognize that. You know, you're dealing with teenagers. You can't. You know, they're not going to act like adults all the time, but let them have fun. I think it always stayed the same. You know, even up through the 12 years with softball, we expected the girls when we had practice but we also had fun at practice. We would joke around with them, make fun of them, you know, and try to keep it as light as you can. I mean, you're there for a serious purpose, but you know, try and keep a degree of what's going on. I mean, we're not out of here playing for a world championship. I mean, we're out here to have fun, and you know, you have practice, you work hard, but you can have some fun at practice too. I remember going to the games. You know, they were a fun group to watch. They were very talented, and you know, went down to Hinkle Fieldhouse for the championship game. And to be honest with you, they're at the end of the game, they're behind, and I'm thinking there's no way they're going to pull this out. And, you know, the other team helped them. They missed a couple of free throws, and then we ended up hitting some threes and winning that game. And, you know, it was a fun day, you know, and to watch them and all the excitement they went through, you know, that was fun. Yeah. And, yeah, from a girl that had never made a three-pointer, and she gets nothing but net. I couldn't remember, and I remember her being interviewed, and I remember her saying, of course it was off and out of bounds play, and I remember she got the ball, and she said in the interview, I knew I had to shoot. No, I don't think it was drawn up that way, but the ball got in her hands and she knew she had to fire it, and she did, and she made it. I mean, you know, those are the kind of stories that, you know, you can't make up. I remember, I don't know how many people from Triton were there, but there were a bunch. And and then they turned around and did it the next year too. So yeah, they were a good group. I mean, good bunch of kids. Yeah, that was their first ever state. Well, Steve and I really met at the Little League, and actually that was like 40 years ago. And we worked together in the Little League, and then I started coaching the travel league team, and we became friends, and we worked together, like I said, for 40 years, and we're out of coaching now. We probably talk 4 or 5 times a week on the phone. We try to have breakfast every once a month together. We still stay in touch, and we have grandkids now playing, so we talk a lot about grandkids and what they're doing, and but we're still good friends, and Steve and I have always got along. Steve can be opinionated at times, but one thing about coaching with him, he's always listened to my opinions. He's never said, get out of here. What do you think we ought to do? And so, we got along. And I always remember when he had the problem with his back and ended up where he really couldn't coach for 10 games. And I took over. And I'm always proud of this. We had our spring sports banquet, and Steve gets up there and he says, I'm not sure you people wanted me back. He said, I turned this team over to Bill and he went 10-0. He said, I'm not sure anybody wanted me back. But we've got a good relationship, and it will continue because, like I say, we talk practically 3 or 4 times a week on the phone, and in fact, this Thursday we're going out to breakfast together. So yeah, it's a good relationship. Been a lot of fun. I guess we did.
Teams. Yeah.
I guess we did. When Steve and I started, we only had the 1 ball diamond, and we built the 2nd ball diamond. We built the softball diamond. We built the t-ball diamond. So I guess we expanded the program. Put up the new concession stand, which that was kind of a proud moment because we spent $40,000 on that concession stand, borrowed that money from the Bourbon Bank, and paid them back in 3 years. So, and I guess we had an influence on Triton baseball, and later on softball, because Steve and I recognized that you can't expect girls to become freshmen and make softball players out of them. You need to start when they're about this high, and that's why we started the softball program. Was because at the time Triton didn't have anything. I mean, girls would come out when they were freshmen, and now, okay, here's a softball. They weren't even sure what the silly thing was, So I guess we've had some influence.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
We would have tryouts, and we would pick the best kids out of the league and make a team. And when I say travel, yeah, we traveled a lot. We were in a conference, which you played a home and home series. We would play typically. One year we played almost 50 baseball games in the summer. And they have these travel league teams now, but they don't play nearly like we did back then. I mean, it would be 40 some games. I mean, we played all summer long, and usually we always ended up at the Blueberry. That was the end of our season, and so of course we didn't have any buses yet. Mom and Dad had to haul them. You had to haul them in your car. So you spent a lot of time on the road and played every Wednesday night and Saturdays, and then you get into tournaments. God knows when you were playing. It was fun, but you spent a lot of time at it, and again, had a lot of good kids over the years. Some years we were pretty good, some years we weren't as good, but small town, that's going to happen. So,
any players stand out for you over the years?
Yeah, a couple of them, and boy, you're testing my memory. Brad Hargraves was probably the best athlete I ever coached. He could do things, and that's why I think his daughter, who's now at Ohio University, and starting there, he was the best athlete I ever coached. Not saying he's the best baseball player, but he was the best athlete I ever coached. Another kid that I remember is Chad Sarver. Probably the best pitcher I ever had. I mean, unbelievable. Anytime as a pitcher, I don't care what level, you average more than 1.5 strikeouts an inning, you're pretty good. And we had a brilliant philosophy: get the game to Chad with the lead, and chances are we're going to win. Those are two that just off the top of my head stick out. There were others, I'm sure, but those two, Hargraves, without question, the best athlete I ever coached. Well, that's a good question, because many times, in order to get them to games, I would drive a car and Marcia would drive a car. And there are a couple of times Marcia had a convertible. So they would rather ride in the convertible than with me. So the ones that got stuck with me were the ones that couldn't get in the convertible. She'd been a rock, okay? When I took over the travel league team, she became our official scorekeeper. She went to every game. At the home games, she was upstairs running the scoreboard and announcing. And that has continued through softball. I mean, I guess softball was kind of a family affair for me and Steve, because Marcia was upstairs and Mary was in the concession stand and Steve and I were out on the field. And of course, when you got wives, they like to point out to you your mistakes and why did you do this or why did you do that? But Marcia was a trooper and she never complained. I think she had as much fun as I did. And, you know, when we hosted sectionals at Triton, Marcia would be upstairs by herself because she didn't want anybody else up there. You didn't want to send somebody else up to help her because she'd just run them off. But she was a trooper. And I think all coaches' wives have to go through that. You know, starting in March, Marcia told me one time, she said, you see more of those girls than you do of me. I said, yeah, you got that right. But she never complained. And she came to every game. And, you know, I think Mary was very supportive, and I think Marcia was very supportive. And I don't know if I could have done it without that, okay? I mean, she never complained, and it wasn't like, oh, God, we got to go to another baseball game. It's okay, let's go. You know, and when with the travel team, you know, we had to have her drive. Never complained, never complained. But I don't think any coach could sit up here and tell you that without his wife's support he could have done it, because you can't. It's a lot of hours. Marcia, in the softball thing towards the end, missed some games because we had grandkids playing, and she would go to that rather than go with us if we were on the road. But basically, she was at every game.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I, you know, I've told her many times that I couldn't have done what I did without her support. You know, and you can't. I mean, no, I helped.
Okay.
I helped a year or two, but never really coached.
Okay.
I took over the high school 13-15 program for a couple of years by myself, which, that was okay. I mean, that was a short season, and you played in the afternoons and stuff, and I was at a position where I could be there, so I kind of got stuck, I guess, by the fact I was available. But I never tried to coach. I never tried to coach football, even though I played it. And I never tried to coach basketball because I just never had the opportunity and really didn't want to.
Yeah.
Marcia coached basketball. I think she had a good time at it. I think she just took it out of the fact they couldn't get anybody else to do it. But she did it for a couple of years. I think it brings the community together. You talked about the first girls' championship. If there was anybody left in town, I don't know who they were. You know, it brings the community together. You know, remember the boys, how many times they won a state championship, how many times they were down there. You know, I remember the girls won the first one, and I remember they were going down to play in the second one, and Plymouth's team was going to be down there. It ended up down there, but I remember we were Triton was playing Plymouth. At Plymouth, it was the end of the season, and the Plymouth introduced both teams as going down to try and win a state championship. And it just brings communities, I think, together. I remember going down to watch that game, and Plymouth fans were there, cheered for our girls. Plymouth played in the evening, didn't win, but Marcia and I could not hang around for the Plymouth game, but Marcia, we had people tell us that, of course, the Triton girls came in to watch the Plymouth game, and they told us the Plymouth fans got up and gave them a standing ovation. I mean, it just brings people together, especially in small communities. And even Plymouth. Plymouth hasn't outgrown that, And I think that's neat. I think that's important. Well, of course, the girls' championships, the success the boys had for so many years. You got to remember, we had a baseball team that won a state championship, and I coached a lot of those kids in travel league. And I'll tell you a little story about that. Marcia and I at that time had our motor home, and that weekend that they were supposed to be playing in Indianapolis, we were supposed to be in Terre Haute on one of these weekend campouts. And I'm down at the Little League Park, and Greg Hensley's down there, and he comes walking up to me and he said, we're playing for a state championship Saturday. I think it was Friday and Saturday. I don't remember if they played 2 different days or what, but he said these kids would like their travel league coach to be there. Marcia and I drove from Terre Haute back to Indianapolis to watch those games, drove back to did it twice because they played 2 different days. I was there. Well, you feel a part of it. And obviously, if I didn't, I wouldn't have drove from Terre Haute to Indianapolis twice to watch them. But you feel a part of it. And, I had parents at those games who had coached those kids in travel league come up to me and thank me for doing that. And that makes you feel good. And I was excited as they were when they won. Got to go down, played there at the 3A stadium and got to go down and didn't get out on the field, but they would come over to where I was standing, and talk to me, and it felt good. Well, how did it impact my life? I think I got to know a bunch of neat kids, okay? And any coach that doesn't tell you this, I think is lying to you. I don't remember all the games. I don't remember the wins and the losses. Yeah, I remember the sectional wins. I remember the regional wins. But I remember those kids. And, the relationships that you form with those kids that last forever, that's much more important to me than any ball game we ever won or any championship we ever won. And to this day, they still acknowledge you if they see you. And I think that's important. I feel good about it. Obviously, they must have thought I treated them okay or they would ignore me, but I think that's what's important to any coach, is the relationships you form with those teenagers.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I'm not smart enough to remember how many games we won in a year or who we beat, but you can't forget those kids. And they don't forget you. I mean, I've had, like Megan, I haven't seen Megan in years, and yet she's at a ball game and she's looking for me. That makes you feel good. And I think any coach you get sitting in this silly chair is going to say the same thing to you. I mean, what's important is the relationship you form with those kids. Yeah. And did we influence them? I hope so. I hope we were a positive influence on them. But that's what's important in the end. Not the wins, not the losses, but the relationships you form with those kids.
Trouble and
I think it does. I think we've had girls in softball, especially, that by becoming part of that softball team, we kept them out of trouble.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I think they'd have gotten in trouble. I mean, I'm honest about it, but I think they wanted to play softball, and Steve and I wouldn't put up with any silliness, and so I guess we had an impact there. One thing about coaching, and I think every coach that sits here will tell you, didn't do it for the money.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, you coach girls softball, you figure, oh, I might have made 25 cents an hour. Steve and I got talking about giving it up. And this senior group that we just went through, we said a couple of years ago, we're going to stick into this till that senior group is gone. And when they were gone, then we were going to go. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that had an influence.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back, just couldn't walk away from them. I mean, you know, we got to stick it out. And we did. And you know, and when our season over, Steve looked at me and said, I think we're both ready to give this up. The time it took, when you find out you can no longer stand at home plate and hit a fly ball over the fence, you got to go out and stand at the pitcher's mound. You're getting to the age you don't maybe give it up and let somebody younger. And the time away from, you know, from grandkids and wanting to be able to, Steve wanting to be able to watch his grandkids play, me wanting to be more free to watch my grandkids.
Yeah.
That was a part of it. I mean, you know, that last year we coached, Steve and I, actually, they hired us both as co-head coaches because he would go watch his grandkids and I would coach the team. I'd go watch my grandkids, he would coach the team. Mm-hmm. We might have left before then if the school didn't let us do something like that.
Yeah.
Because Steve wanted to be a part of his grandkids and so did I. And so they let us do that, and but we knew that it was time to move on. Yeah, probably. Yeah. But Steve and I have talked, we're going to stay away because we don't want people to, you know, they got a new coach. We've met a lady. I mean, I got to say that meeting her, I liked her, but I've only met her one time, okay? But Steve and I don't want to be down there and parents say, well, you and Steve would have done it this way. And no, we're not going to go there. We're just going to stay back away from it and let her be the coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we don't need people trying to compare her to us. And they probably will anyhow, but we don't want to be there for it. Yeah. I mean, we're going to stay away. That's going to be hard to do. I may have to sneak down sometime and park the car somewhere where I can watch them, but I'm not getting out there. I don't want to be a part of the crowd. Yeah. And that may seem selfish, but I think you just get to the point that you let go of it. I mean, you know, don't make her life miserable by you being there, and you know, that's not fair. So we're going to stay away from it. Oh, it's going to be tough for both of us. I know we've already talked about it, but I'm not going to miss starting practice next week and freezing my hind end off out there and trying to practice in the gym or out on the blacktop. I'm not going to miss that crap and going to a ball game with more clothes on you that if you fell down you probably couldn't get up. I mean, spring sports at times are not a lot of fun for anybody, and I'm not going to miss that. But I'll miss the girls, and we both talked about that. We'll both miss the girls, but it was time. I mean, you know when it's time to walk away. We'll take credit for that. I mean, we built it up, and I hope it continues. I want this lady to be as successful as we were. Yeah. And, you know, she's going to have a tough year. And we knew it because she's got talent, but it's young. And so you just got to fight through that. Steve and I had that too. I mean, sometimes you just got to fight through it. And, but, if, you know, those kids will be very good in a couple of years. Yeah. And, of course, it didn't hurt that two of our best players went down with ACLs, but we had that last year, you know. And injuries are just part of it. We lost Crystal Sellers, didn't play at all her senior year. Lily Berger, who you know her mom, had to have surgery on a lousy finger. I mean, you know, and of course Crystal tore her ACL in practice. And we played our last home game and we honored our seniors, and of course we honored them too. And I remember that I told Steve what I was going to do. I went over and told the other coach. Of course, Crystal's got this brace on, and Lily's got something on her silly finger. I said, we're going to start both those girls just so they get to be announced. And I said, our pitcher's going to throw a pitch to your first batter, and she's going to throw it in the dirt. And when she throws that pitch, we're going to send in their replacements and bring them off the field. And I remember that coach turning to her leadoff hitter and saying, if you swing at that first pitch, I'll kill you. Yeah, and I think they appreciate it. Yeah. I know they both came off and hugged us, and Crystal was crying, and but it was just a way to honor them. I mean, they'd been with us forever, and not their fault that they got hurt. I think probably Jimtown was a big rivalry for us because we knew those coaches over there well, and the one coach, the elderly gentleman, he coached some of our girls in the summertime on a travel team, so we all kind of knew each other. Mm-hmm. That was a big rivalry. He left there and moved on to coach Goshen, and then we started playing Goshen, and that kind of began to become a big rivalry. And the other rivalry, quite frankly, was with Plymouth. They weren't on our schedule for a long time, and when they went on our schedule, that was the game that the girls, they looked forward to. And they only beat us one time. I mean, yeah. And the girls look forward to that. I remember the first year we played them. We came over here to play them, and Steve said to the girls when we got on the bus, he said, I know you girls want to win this one for Bill. And they all shook their heads, yeah. That was a big rivalry. Those were the ones I remember. Right,
yeah, so
right. Right.
So only losing to them once is pretty impressive.
Yeah. We lost to them one time. Probably shouldn't have lost that game, but I get a kick out of these coaches, basketball coaches, that say we got to play back-to-back nights. That week, we played Plymouth on a Saturday, and that was our 7th game that week. And we were a tired softball team.
I can imagine.
We had played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then we played a doubleheader on Friday, and that was against Jimtown. And then we went to Plymouth on Saturday, and we were a tired softball team, and we were tired coaches. But sometimes you get into that in the spring. Games get rained out, it's too cold to play.
Yeah.
And I always get a kick when I hear basketball coaches say, well, we got to get used to playing back-to-back. How about playing 6 straight days? We did that another week. I remember going to Caston and playing on a Saturday. Actually, it was what we call a 3-way, where you got 3 teams and everybody plays everybody. Colder than the devil. Raining. I thought I was going to drown at times. And those 2 games made 7 games that week. And we won both our games and got on the bus, headed home. You could hear a pin drop. I mean, they were back there sleeping. They had it.